Greetings YouTube, Skill Incarnate bringing you all the latest indie gaming goodness. Welcome back as we look at another indie game. This time we're looking at one of the most challenging games I've played for the PlayStation, Dead Cells by new developer Motion Twin. Dead Cells is a roguelike MetroidVania platformer with fast-paced, precise combat, unlockable weapons and abilities, and a brutal difficulty. As a fan of challenging platforming games like Zombotron and Fury Unleashed, I've been itching to get my hands on this game, as it's been getting nothing but praise. I can assure you that all of the praise is well deserved, and guarantee my review is free of plagiarism, if you know what I mean. Dead Cells' story is shrouded in mystery. You play the role of an unnamed entity trapped inside a gigantic prison on an unknown island. You have the ability to possess and use the corpses within the prison, effectively granting you immortality. The island is being ravaged by a disease known only as the Malaise, which causes madness and horrible mutation. Your goal is to fight through the prison, defeating your fellow prisoners and the guards, along with gigantic monsters created by the Malaise. Ultimately, you will need to fight your way to the prison warden, while discovering the island's secrets and ultimately the truth of your own path, along with your true identity. There's a lot of depth to the story, however players can only unlock all of these details by exploring every corner of the prison and unlocking secret areas. The game can also be completed multiple times, with branching paths and multiple endings. This is a masterstroke by the developer, encouraging players to explore the environment and finish the game more than once, giving them incentive rather than just providing a few extra trinkets or simply making enemies more difficult on subsequent runs. The gameplay in Dead Cells is a perfect mix of platforming and frantic combat, with the player exploring the prison and interacting with the residents both alive and dead. Collecting resources such as gold, weapons and schematics are vital to your survival, as well as collecting enemy cells, which are the main currency of the game. Much like the Dark Souls series, the collected cells are vital, as they allow you to purchase both upgrades to your player along with purchasing new weapons provided you have the weapon schematic. Upgrades and weapons can be carried through to subsequent runs, so you should carefully consider what you spend your cells on. A key aspect of the game is the brutal difficulty. You begin the game with a borrowed body and only a few basic weapons. The prison is crawling with enemies that move fast and hit hard. Many of them have their own special abilities, and there are elite variants of several of the enemies in the game. Understanding enemy attacks and patterns is key to completing the game. Thankfully, the player is also very agile and has access to a wide variety of moves. You can double jump and drop between platforms, taking advantage of the environment to knock enemies off cliffs, or set them up for an overhead strike. You can roll to evade enemy attacks, and set them up for a backstab. The prison itself is also filled with deadly traps and obstacles. These include acid pools, bottomless pits, spikes and fire. Any of these can swiftly end a run for a careless player. But with a little skill and the right timing, the same obstacles can be used to trap your foes. Dead Cells is a game that can be maddeningly frustrating and endlessly addictive all at the same time. Another critical element to Dead Cells is the progression system, which implements the risk-reward system to near perfection. The player is an immortal being. However, when you are inevitably killed, you are forced back to the lowest level of the prison, resetting your run and losing any cells you have not invested into upgrades. In addition to the regular upgrades, players can also spend cells to unlock powerful boosts called mutations. These mutations grant abilities like vampiric attacks and additional ammo for your ranged weapons. There are also a massive range of unlockable melee and ranged weapons, including swords, shields and bows, which have different attributes, like elemental effects. You can pick up traps that can slow and immobilize enemies, and grenades can be used tactically, such as dropping them on enemies from above. Upgrade scrolls found during your adventure give you the option of creating a player build, focusing on a set of weapons or spells. In one run, after finding a pair of enchanted daggers, I became an assassin, using freezing grenades to immobilize foes and setting them up for a backstab. At higher difficulties, I favoured a hunter build, combining bladed traps to cripple my foes and my trusty bow to finish them off with arrows. The player is completely free to choose the way they want to play the game, with each run unlocking more weapons and upgrades, and thus more options for new character builds. While the Dead Cells campaign is rather short, with only 8 levels, it will take even experienced players many attempts to complete the entire game. After you complete the campaign for the first time, this will unlock higher difficulties, which are even more challenging, but offer better rewards and unlock alternate endings to the game. Another clever touch is the inclusion of daily challenges, which are specifically designed dungeons, filled with elite enemies and multiple hazards. The challenges must also be completed within a time limit, using a predetermined loadout. Successful completion of challenge rooms will unlock permanent upgrades which can be used in the main campaign. Dead Cells has immense replay value, with the campaign taking even experienced players 8 to 10 hours to complete, and subsequent runs even longer. Completionists will also need to make many runs to unlock all of the weapons and upgrades as well. So do I recommend Dead Cells? Well, it really depends on your tolerance for roguelike games and titles with an unforgiving challenge. Players who are fans of the Dark Souls series or games like Nioh, like myself, will immediately fall in love with Dead Cells' addictive gameplay. I found myself unable to put it down. I wanted to try one more dungeon, one more difficult boss, or test drive a new weapon or build that I'd come up with in a previous run. Like the Dark Souls games, with every defeat, you'll learn a little bit more about each enemy and dungeon, as well as the character builds that best match your playstyle, eventually blitzing your way through the campaign and defeating the final boss. At least until you try a harder difficulty. However, if you're more of a casual gamer and like your platformers a little bit more laid back, then you may want to give this one a miss. I've finished the campaign 3 times and still haven't unlocked all of the upgrades and all the endings to the game. I think that should give you a bit of an idea of whether I like this game. Dead Cells is currently available for PlayStation and on Steam for around $30. However, if you can, I would recommend getting it on console, as I found the game is best experienced when using a controller. And that was it for my review for Dead Cells. As always, I hope you enjoyed watching this review, and I'd love to hear from anyone who has also played and finished the game. I'm yet to finish it on the hardest difficulty, so I would welcome any tips and tricks from budding players. I look forward to you joining me next time when I cover another indie game. Until then, Skill Incarnate out.